Hello everyone and welcome, it's Alexandra. I have added 2 new kits with the specimen slides to my Etsy store, and in today's video I'm going to show you the slides of both of the kits a little bit closer and also provide you with the assembly instructions for 2 types of the slides. The first kit is called 8-shaped slides, and it includes 12 pages with the help of which you will be able to create 20 8-shaped slides and also create a storage box for them. The second kit is called rectangular slides. The shape of the slides is a little bit different, but the kit also consists of 12 pages for making 20 of the rectangular shaped slides and another storage box for that size of the slides. For the purpose of the tutorial, I have printed out 4 pages. I have printed 1 page with the 8-shaped slides that I'm going to use for explaining how to assemble them. And from the second kit, I actually printed 3 pages, 1 page with the shape of the slide in order to demonstrate how to assemble this type of the slide, and also 2 pages with the parts of the box in which you will be able to store this type of your slides. So let me put the pages aside for now. You can find the full preview of all the pages which are included in the kit in the Etsy listing, and I will include the links to both of the listings in the description box below this video. So let's have a look at the storage boxes and at the slides themselves. So let's begin actually with the 8-shaped slides, because this was the first kind of the slides that I have created. The slides are mostly nature themed, and they include various bugs and herbs and mushrooms and some birds, some animals, but I have also included 2 slides with people, with portraits actually, and I also included 2 slides which are kind of autumn themed. In the kit, by the way, the color of the slide with the autumn themed inserts is different from what I show you here. I think it's more like a yellow tone or something like that. Here are 2 pairs of the first slides that I have already pulled out, and all of them are double-sided, and when you assemble them, I will show you. Although the shape might look a little bit challenging to assemble, you will see how easy it is in fact to create them. So here we have another pair of slides, and that's the reverse side of them. Then we have 2 purple ones with some trees and landscapes of the forest. That's the reverse. Then we also have 2 slides with some forest animals, and the reverse looks like that. Then we have 2 more with gorgeous flowers, and I like how the tone of this slide came out, the reverse. Then we have 2 slides with some birds, some pigeons and blue jay. The reverse looks like that. And of course we couldn't leave the mushrooms out, and this is the pair of slides with the mushrooms. Then 2 more with some florals, and that's the reverse. And the last pair from this kit looks like this, with some bugs and a butterfly, and that's the reverse side of those slides. And then the box consists of the tray, let's call it like that, and It's assembled with just the same kind of paper that you would use for printing out all of your slides in the kit. It's the 65-pound cardstock paper. And then for the sleeve that you slide your tray with the slides into, looks like this. I used a piece of acetate for covering the punched out circles on the sleeve, and that's how our slides in the box look like. Then this kit with the H-shaped slides also includes the elements for creating little embellishments, which are double-sided, that you can just clip to the sides of the pages in your journal, or maybe poke a hole on the slide itself and add this little circle embellishment to the slide, or use it however else you want. That was the first kit. Now the second kit, I remind you, is called rectangular slides, and this is the box with those slides right here. You can take the whole stack of the slides out of the box quite easily. And we have another 20 slides in the kit. I'm going to show them to you in a second. That's how the reverse side of those slides look like. They're all different. And here we also have some herbal images and floral ones, and some animals, and some fruits, some more flowers, mushrooms, of course, and birds, and some neutral nature themed images, and bugs and butterflies, some more bugs and butterflies, and more butterflies. The tray looks the same, but it has different measurements to accommodate the size of the slides. And the sleeve for the tray is structured the same way as the one from the H-shaped slides. Has another label on the side, but the principle is the same. Before I demonstrate how to assemble both the slides and the box, I want to say that the kit includes JPEG images, and when you print them out, make sure that you print both the slides and the pages with the parts of the box the same way. If you decide to resize them for any reason, make sure that you resize both the box and the slides, because everything is designed the way that it fits together. If you change the measurements of anything, I can't guarantee that your slides will fit inside the box anymore. So if you print the pages, make sure that you print all 12 of them in the same way, whether you fit them to the page, or you fill the page with the images, or you decide to downsize them, or anything else. Just make sure that the printing settings will be the same for all of the 12 pages. That's really important. Now, let me talk just in a few words about the tools that we're going to need. I usually use the ruler and the craft knife for cutting out the major parts of the images. Then, since we have here some circles, we are going to use the circle punches, and the sizes of the circle punches that I'm going to need include the 1.5 inch, 3/4 inch for punching out these little circle embellishments in the H-shaped slides kit, and then for creating the notches in an easier way than just cutting them out with the scissors, I do recommend that you use a circle punch with the 5/8 inch size, or if you don't have this one, the 1/2 inch circle will also work. Other than that, we're going to use the scissors, of course. We're going to use our bone folder, some glue. We're going to use the wide tape for creating that shiny effect on the slides. I didn't want to use acetate on each one of those slides because working with acetate is more time consuming. I needed a piece of acetate for the sleeve of the box, but for creating each one of the slides, we're going to use just the clear tape. And what else? Glue, I already said. Maybe we're going to use the scoring board, but that's not sure. It depends how you want to go about it, but I will talk about it when we get to that stage. So let me put the punches aside for now and take my self-healing mat, and we will begin with cutting out the slide shapes, and we'll start assembling them. All right, so I have here one of the sheets from the H-shaped slides kit. Since the shape of the slides is not rectangular and doesn't have straight edges, I added the cut boxes around each one of the slides to make it easier for you to cut them out and fold them together and create a mirrored image both in the front and in the back. Now we are going to start with cutting out these parts of the slides first, and I am using the guidelines for cutting them out. I will first separate the lower part of the paper from the main shape of the slides, and I will continue cutting each one of the two pairs around the cut box lines. Now that we have that done, we are going to fold each one of the paper pieces like so, making sure that we line the corners as precise as we can. Use your bone folder to reinforce the score line on the side. Let's do the same with the second paper piece. Here are two of our slide bases. Now I do like to trim a little bit more from this edge so that I have something like this, because then it's easier for me to reach to the curved part of the slide with my punch. But that depends really on the punch that you have. Some punches reach further, some are staying quite close to the edge of the page, so it really depends. If you can reach with your punch to that curved part of the printable, then you don't have to trim more paper on this side of the slide piece. But other than that, this is what we have right now. I'm going next to use my 1.5 inch circle punch, and I will punch out the center on this half of my slide. Next, I will just take a pencil and I will mark where the punched out areas are on the inside of my paper, like so. And that will help us later on when we are going to glue our images for the inside of the slide to the cardstock. So I'm going back to the elements that I set aside previously, and I'm going to cut out the embellishment circles next. I'm going to line my ruler next to the edge of the cut box, which goes around each one of the circle pairs, and use my craft knife for cutting out those elements. Let's fold them together similar to how we folded the slide pieces, and set them aside for now. I'm going to get back to them later and explain what to do with them next. So as for now, I'm just going to fold them in half and set aside. Now I'm going back to the circles that we have here. I wanted you to have less work lining up each one of the images that we are going to use for the inside of our slides. And that's why the pairs of images that you are going to have on each one of the pages is already lined up to match the openings in the slide. So you are not going to separate or punch out separately each one of these 1.5 inch circles. You are going, though, to take your tape and cut a piece that will be enough for covering both of the circles. You're going to glue the paper on top of the cardstock and do the same for the circles on this side. Glue the tape really good on top of the images and the cardstock. Now I'm going to cut out the tiny labels and cut out the 2 circles roughly. As you can see, I'm not cutting right along the edge, and then without separating them, I will keep on cutting around the outline of the circles like so. I leave about maybe less than 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the image to the edge of the cardstock. But that's the shape that we need to get. Let's do the same here. I'm not very precise, as you can see. I just want to make sure that, of course, I do not cut off any parts of the printed images, but I don't need a super perfect shape to be cut around them. So here are the parts of our slide. Let's begin with this one. And on some of the slides, you will have the text. So before you glue the images down, make sure that you position the slide correctly. Now, I have created those circles, and you will understand why I did that in a second. I will prepare the bottle with the glue. And by the way, thank you, Debbie, for my beautiful glue bottle stopper. This was a gift from one of my friends and subscribers, Debbie. I really enjoy using this piece. If you want Debbie to create one for you, you can contact her. A link to her channel will be also listed in the description below this video. So going back to our slides, I will first take the pair of the images that I'm going to use on this slide here, and I will put it inside and just kind of move it inside to make sure that everything lines up nicely. And then still holding everything together with my fingers, I will unfold either the top part of the slide or the bottom, however you want to do that, and whatever is more convenient for you. And I will use my bone folder to glue it in place, just to burnish on top. And then I will take care of the second half of the piece with the images and glue it down as well. And this is what you're going to get. Now it's time to add the glue to this whole part of the paper. You can kind of see through the paper where the printed areas of the image go. So I will not apply the glue in the corners because there is no printed image there, but I need to apply the glue as close to the punched out frames as possible. And now I will just take my time and make sure that I adhere both parts of the paper together like so. Let me do the same with the second slide, and I will just speed it up in order to save the time. Some glue might ooze out to the parts of the image which are covered with tape at first, so make sure to wipe it off, but I'm sure that with the following slides it will be easier to control the amount of glue that you need. Now that the parts of the image are glued down together, we can continue and take the 5/8 circle punch and punch out the curved areas on each one of them. If you see that you didn't do a very good job lining the punch nicely, you can always go back and punch out more. And if there is anything which is left there, you can use your scissors and correct it. Now I'm working around the camera here and it's a little bit challenging to see where exactly to punch out, but I think it's okay. So now when you have punched out that curved area, you can use your scissors and just go around the edge, the outer edge of the slide on its top part. And also the bottom part, and simply cut it out. And I do try to be precise, but even if I'm not 100% precise, it will not destroy the overall look of the shape because it's mirrored, and we can always use our distress ink and cover up any small white areas that might be left once you cut your shape out with the scissors. But I think that overall, without the use of dyes, we did a pretty good job creating this shaped slide right here. Now let's use some of the tiny labels that we have set aside before, and we can add those numbers to our slides. So here is one label, and you can choose where you want to add it. I thought that with this shape of the label, it would look nice right in the center. On some other slides, you have smaller labels with some figure numbers, and you can just use the 1/2-inch circle punch them out, and glue on top of your slides wherever you want. Some labels you can use in the back of the slides as well, but in general, once we're done gluing this little label to our slide, it will be considered complete. Okay, this is our slide, front and back. I will repeat the same steps for cutting out and punching out the slide right here. Both of our slides are ready. Now let's get back to the tiny circle embellishments that we started to work on. Now I'm going to glue both halves of the paper pieces together, and then I will use my tiny hole punch for punching out the hole at the top of the circle, like so. And I will do the same here, just like that. Now we are going to punch the circles out next, and for that I'm using the 3/4 inch punch. And this hole, as a matter of fact, will be our helper because you can just use your pencil and through that hole, push the paper piece to where it needs to be. Let me line this up with the opening in the punch the best I can. And when you're ready to punch, just punch it out. Of course, distress the edges on both sides. And your tiny embellishment circles are ready now. You can use them either with the slides or with some other ephemera pieces that you're working on for your journals. I will set these under something heavy to make sure that once the slides dry, they're not curved anymore. I think I will just put them under my cutting mat for now. And I am going to show you next how to cut out the slides in the second kit. You will see that you don't have the cut boxes here, and you don't have any other elements next to the circles. That's because I, once again, didn't want you to punch out each one of the circle pairs separately, but to use them as they are, and just to kind of leave an area of the cardstock when you are cutting them out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tape and I will just position the tape holder next to my paper sheet so that I more or less know what should be the length of the tape piece that I need to use on top of all 4 circles at once. If you think that you will struggle with the piece of tape which is that long, because sometimes you know how it likes to stick down to everything, then you might need to cut smaller pieces, but long enough to cover each one of the circle pairs. And then you will take your ruler and craft knife and you are going to cut the slides out right along there. Oh, okay. So one more thing, since we covered the circles with the clear tape, the ruler, well, at least my ruler, can slide on top of that area of cardstock. So you might need to rotate the whole piece and make sure that you put the ruler on the cardstock which is not covered with clear tape. But the next things that you do are pretty similar to what I already explained when we were cutting the H-shaped slide pieces. Even though we don't have the cut box, we are using the edges of our slides, since they're straight ones, as our guides for cutting each one of the slide pairs out. And the process after that will be quite similar. You will have to fold the paper piece and line up the corners the best you can. Here are 2 of the pieces that we will continue working with. I can already separate the images for the inside of the slides like so and cut around them pretty much the same way as we cut around the circles for the H-shaped slides. Just make sure that you keep some paper between the circles, like so. If you are wondering how wide this area should be, it can be as narrow or as wide as you want, as long as it doesn't extend from the middle area of the slide and you have some room around it to apply the glue to keep the slide shut and glued down together. Next, we're going to take the 1.5-inch circle punch and punch out the windows in the slide. Fold the slide back together and mark the area which has been punched out on the second layer of cardstock, like so. Now let's take our glue. Let's take the first pair of images and just make sure that we are holding it correctly with the text going the right way. And once again, I'm putting the circles inside the slide, and while I can still move them around, I center them where they have to be, hold everything in place without moving, and apply the glue only to that section that has been marked to make sure that the glue doesn't go beyond the area where I need it to be. And then I add some more glue between the circles and more glue in the area that I have marked. And I glue the images down like so. And next, you already know what to do. Just add the glue to this half of the paper piece. Mind the area around the punched out frames and glue your slide down together. Next, you are going to cut off the white or the cream cardstock piece on this side, and you're going to use your corner rounder and round the corners of your slide piece. And then you're going to take the 5/8 circle punch and punch out the curved parts on each one of the slide sides. You can use your scissors for cutting these areas as well without even using a punch, but I find that the punch just makes it look better. And then, as you can see, I'm just using the scissors for cutting out the rest of the cardstock that doesn't have a print on it. Really easy to do. Here is our slide. Just ink around its edges and it will be ready. I have assembled the second slide off camera so that we could move on to the box. I am going to demonstrate the process of assembling the box on the parts from the rectangular slide kit. The H-shaped slides kit includes the same parts. They're just sized to fit the smaller slides, but the process of assembling and cutting everything out is the same. I'm going to start with the tray, cut around the edges, the outer edges of the tray. That's the start. That's what we have. Now I will continue cutting out these sections. Try to be as precise as you can. Now I think I will change to a smaller ruler because it will be easier for me to use the smaller one here. I'm going to line the edge of the ruler with the edge of the sides of the tray, both at the top and at the bottom. And I will cut from the corner of this tab and then from the top of the paper to the corner of the tab here. Rotate the piece and do the same on the opposite side. In the back, you can kind of see better where our cuts go. Now I will use the scissors and just cut at an angle next to the flaps. From here, you can either use your scoreboard or you can use your ruler and bone folder, but we will need to fold the sides of the box and also the flaps right along the white lines that you see on the printable. Okay, so I'm lining the ruler next to the white line, and then without moving it, I am folding up the two tabs and also this whole paper piece, but then I will eventually need it to be folded in the opposite direction. But since I already have the score line marked, I will not have any difficulties doing that. Okay, so that's the beginning. Now we need to create more folds right along the second half of the side panel of the box and one more along the flap. And then once again, just fold it in and make sure that you have everything going straight. And this is how it will look like. As a matter of fact, you can unfold the tab like so, because when we assemble everything, it will be glued down to the bottom of our tray right here. So it will need to face this way. Now let me do the same for the second long panel and also for the both short panels on the box. This is how your scored lines and panels need to look like. We are going to glue each one of the tabs, and I use the liquid glue for this step. Pay attention that you construct straight angles when you start to assemble your tray. So we have really everything matching and everything looks just perfect. Now I will glue down the next tab, and you can see that I am folding out some areas of the box so that it's easier for me to reach the tabs with my glue bottle. Okay, now I have this tab here on this side that needs to be glued down. And once again, I'm trying to make sure that I have a perfect corner when gluing down parts of the paper together. Okay, this is how it should look like. And now we have one more tab. I will try to keep it folded and apply the glue to it like so. And once again, glue two panels together and try to create a straight corner. Now our tabs are glued down to the panels, and we can next add the glue to this panel and to the flap, and then fold everything in. Make sure that you push the paper to the very edge of the outer panel, because if you don't, you might not have enough room on the inside of the box for adhering this matting piece later on. So just make sure that once again that this part of the paper is pushed down all the way to the side of the box here. So I first train the paper. As you can see, I fold it in and once again use my bone folder to make sure that all the scored lines lay flat, and only then I add the glue and adhere this section of the box down. So the long panels are glued down now. Let's see if the short panel can easily go in. I think so. We can add the glue. If your panel doesn't want to go in before adding the glue, you can still trim very narrow slivers off the edges to make sure that this panel can be folded inside the box. Okay, same thing here. Okay, I think it's okay. If not, then just trim very, very tiny pieces of paper on the side. You can see how much I trimmed there, but it will help the panel to go in easier on the inside of our box. Push it all the way down and then make sure that you burnish on top of that little flap. And here is our box. We can get back to this paper piece here and cut out the matting layer. Just like that. You can either distress the edges or not. First of all, let's make sure that it fits inside. And in my case, it does. So I will just be gluing it down like so and burnishing. And then you can use some ink and distress the edges of your box or the tray, however you want to look at it, especially where you see the white lines that helped us assemble the box, but now we don't need them, so we can apply some ink right on top of them. The tray is ready, and let me find my 2 slides that we have assembled and make sure that they fit inside. They fit perfectly. You have these images right here. I included them in the kit because I simply had room that I could use, but they are not directly related to the slides, and you are welcome to fussy cut them out and use on any other projects of yours. Now we have this part that we need to assemble and create the sleeve and the top for our box. So what I'm doing now is I'm cutting around the edges of that printed element. Now that you have your paper element cut out like this, you're going to use the scissors and trim next to the corners of the flap. And the flap will be the first thing that you are going to fold using your ruler and bone folder, or a scoreboard alternatively, if that's what you decided to do. But once you fold the flap in like so, you're going to fold the paper like this so that the edge of the box's sleeve is flush with the folded edge of the flap, and then try to hold everything together and use your bone folder to burnish on the opposite side of the paper element. Now I'm going to line my ruler next to one of the white lines between the sides of the sleeve and the top section, and refold it using a bone folder. This is what we have. And now I will also do the same and fold the paper like so to create the opposite side piece of my sleeve. So it should look like that. Before we glue the flap down, let's use our 1.5-inch circle punch and punch out the circles on the printable. And now we are going to measure the length of our sleeve. In my case, it is about 5.25. Width-wise, I think I'm going to go with just 2 inches there. So I will prepare a piece of acetate that will be 5.25 by 2 inches. If you will be working on your second box, the piece of acetate will also be 2 inches wide by about 4.1/8 of an inch long. But I will need right now the piece with those measurements, and here it is. Oh, by the way, you could distress the insides of the frames as well, but anyways, I forgot to do that. That's okay. It doesn't look bad anyways. Now I'm going to apply the glue to this flap and assemble the sleeve for my box. So I'm just making sure that I am layering this paper section on top of the flap, and since we scored everything previously, it should all work together nicely. Now you can fold it in the opposite direction as well, and this is your finished box, ready to store the 20 slides that you will have in the kit. I will now take 2 of these slides from under my healing mat. I think they look better. They look way straighter than before. And of course, the smaller slides can fit inside the larger box, but you will have the box for the H-shaped slides as well. I think that that would be all from me for today. I showed you how to assemble the box and how to assemble each one of the types of the slides from the new kits that will be available in my Etsy store. You had a chance to see how easy it is to assemble the slides, even though their shape might look a little bit difficult to work with. My grandmother used to say that the eyes are afraid of something, but the hands just keep on doing the job. So I think that's exactly the case with these slides. No special dies are needed for creating the slides, so I hope you have fun putting them together. I will see you back soon and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye!